Picture this. Earth just got smacked by a calamity of biblical proportions, and it's basically a post-apocalyptic world now. 7.9 billion people are gone. Puff. But against all odds, 2 individuals have miraculously survived the cataclysm. Can they defy extinction and repopulate the planet back to 7 billion? Now, you don't need a PhD to know that if we're talking about 2 people repopulating the Earth, they better both have some good childbearing years left in the tank. That's because by the time a woman hits 35, her fertility starts doing a nosedive. At 30, the chance of getting pregnant in a given month is about 20%, but by 40, it drops to a measly 5%. Having said that, men aren't off the hook either. While men can theoretically father children for most of their lives, their sperm quality declines as they get older. And the older a guy is, the higher the risk of their children being born with certain disorders. In fact, around 1 in 5 infants born to older dads face an increased risk of birth defects. And here's a sobering fact for you. Childbirth itself carries risks, no matter the age. Both the mother and the baby can face complications, which in some cases can even be life-threatening. Sure, younger women generally have an easier time during labor, but it's still no walk in the park at any age. Simply put, the best shot for this couple to repopulate the planet is if they're both in their teens, with lots of childbearing years ahead. Genetic challenges and family ties. But even then, that's not a guarantee that they'll be able to repopulate the Earth. Far from it. That's because every generation after them is going to be direct relatives. Picture this, siblings having kids to keep the population going. And those kids? Yeah, they're first cousins. Cue the family tree getting tangled. And that's what you call a biological puzzle, where every piece is connected and the picture is a bit too close for comfort. But hey, discomfort is just the tip of the iceberg in the sea of problems that tag along. Studies have reported that the risk of birth defects in offspring from immediate relationships is approximately 2 to 3 times higher than in the general population. Consider the Habsburgs as an example. They went all in on the family tree, and guess what they got in return? Only deformities and a higher risk of hemophilia. But hold on, not all royals played the same game. While European royalty played it somewhat safe with aunts, uncles, and direct cousins, Egyptian royalty went all in on siblings marrying to keep the dynasty sitting pretty on the throne. Sure, it kept the dynasty rolling, but it introduced a whole different plot twist into the mix. Hemophilia, a rare condition that plagues some royal families, wasn't a stranger to the Egyptian dynasties either. The founder effect. Now you might be asking yourself, what about the small groups settling in places like North America and Australia? So for that, here's the deal. Surviving is a real challenge, and after a while, everyone becomes family, you know? They call it the founder effect. A small group starts a community, and soon they're all marrying cousins, increasing the chances of genetic issues. Take a detour to Pingalapa, a group on a tiny island where 1 in 20 is colorblind, way more than the rest of the world at 1 in 20,000. Not only that, but even mental and personality disorders tend to show up more frequently when your gene pool is limited. Picture a couple having a bunch of kids. The first ones might be healthy, but issues can pile up as you go down the line. Not to mention that sperm quality is also known to be affected by inbreeding. That said, all hope is not lost. Historical perspectives. Look, throughout history, we've seen some tiny survivor groups making a comeback, beating the odds in the genetics game. Take the Hutterite community of North America as an example, which descended from less than 20 families. The Hutterites, through their unique communal living and careful mate selection, defied the odds. How, you ask? They didn't leave their fate to chance. Elders in their community played matchmaker, making sure marriages weren't just about liking the same movies, but also keeping the gene pool diverse. Smart move, right? It's like a genetic insurance policy. Less risk of passing down issues and more chance of a healthy community vibe. And here's the kicker, they didn't just survive, they thrived too. From a humble beginning of less than 20 families, they built a thriving community, showcasing the power of resilience and strategic planning in the face of genetic challenges. Which is to say that if our 2 survivors in this post-apocalyptic world can emulate the wisdom of communities like the Hutterites, there may be hope yet. The only problem is, there's a significant difference between starting with 18 families like the Hutterites and having just 2 survivors attempt to repopulate the Earth. In other words, the gap is more than just numerical. The Hutterite community, originating from 8 18 families had a head start in terms of genetic diversity. Each family brought its unique set of traits, creating a mosaic of potential combinations. Contrast this with our 2 survivors standing amidst the ruins. Their genetic pool is limited, a mere fraction of what the Hutterites had. The biological challenges they face are staggering. The risk of genetic disorders looms large, and the delicate balance between health and vulnerability becomes a high-stakes gamble. Technological interventions. Now, perhaps you're thinking, what about technological interventions? Could our 2 survivors use artificial insemination or genetic engineering to overcome these challenges? Well, it's a tempting idea, but here's the catch. In a post-apocalyptic world, resources are scarce, and the infrastructure needed for such advanced procedures is likely a distant memory. Besides, genetic engineering is no walk in the park. It takes years to master the art of genetic engineering, and our survivors might not have that luxury. But let's pretend for a second that both these people are absolute prodigies in the world of genetic engineering. So for that, even if they are, the risks and ethical considerations of playing with the very building blocks of life are no joke. Human traits and genetics are incredibly complex. Many traits are multifactorial, influenced by genetic, environmental, and epigenetic factors. So it's challenging to predict and control the outcomes of genetic manipulation with absolute certainty. Messing with genes can be a bit like playing Jenga. Pull out one block and the whole tower might tumble. And guess what? The consequences are like a wild roller coaster ride. You fix one issue, but whoops, here comes another. It's like trying to solve a puzzle blindfolded. You might think you're nailing it, but the outcome is a mystery. What seems like a brilliant edit today might turn into a life-threatening problem generations later. Other challenges for the survivors. Also, keep in mind, survival isn't just about genetics, it's also about meeting basic human needs. In a world stripped of its modern conveniences, our survivors would have to master sustenance farming, tapping into the wisdom of our ancestors. They would need to understand the soil, cultivate crops, and raise livestock for sustenance. And let's not forget the challenges of clean water. Our survivors would have to innovate, perhaps rediscovering ancient methods or relying on natural filtration systems. But it's not just about physical survival. Mental and emotional well-being will also play a crucial role. Keep in mind, humans are social creatures. Take away the interactions, the emotional support, and bam, you got a recipe for all sorts of psychological challenges. And isolation is not the only problem our survivors will have to deal with. It's also the lack of different perspectives. Without a bigger crew, they're in danger of getting stuck in their heads, maybe developing some tunnel vision or falling prey to cognitive biases, which of course could also lead to relationship drama. The pressure to make babies and repopulate, unresolved issues, emotional baggage, that's like putting their bond through the ultimate test. And remember, as time goes on, they've also got to figure out how to be the super parents in a world where there's no culture, no schools, and no social norms. It would be like parenting in a vacuum. They'll have to be their children's teachers, cultural custodians, and friends all by themselves. Which begs the question, what kind of culture will they pass on? Will it be a replication of their own limited experiences, or can they magically bring back that rich tapestry of human culture from the good old days?